I have no communications to give, other than we know that Hannah will not be present tonight. And I guess before I ask for public comment from the public, I know that Martha Moore wants to speak to Article 1 on the warrant, which we really have no information on, so it's really going to be more informational than anything else. Does anybody from the board have any public comment?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and George, is it your turn to be winding the clock? It's running a little slow.
No?
Okay.
I had last month.
Okay. Then with that, take public comment from the public.
So I know this is might be premature. I didn't realize it was as premature as it is. But I am...
I'm sorry, can you introduce yourself?
I'm sorry.
That's
Martha Moore. People don't know me. I'm the director of the library here in town. And we have recently been asked to have school visits from the 5th grade twice weekly. There's 6 classes that come, and they'll be coming on a monthly basis for the rest of FY19. And what that does is it changes my staff's working time, because it takes a number of hours every week for us to be there for the kids and be ready for the kids and do everything we need to do, circle all their books, return all their books to the shelves, clean it up after they've left, da-da-da-da-da. I could go on and on. And so it averages out to I think it's about 10 hours for 4 staff people. Total of 10 hours for 4 staff people. So depending on which staff person it is, but we do have 4 working on this program. It ends up taking up hours during the week, which means they don't have those hours to do their regular job. So they have to get their regular work done, so that means right now I have no way of paying them because there's no money in the budget to pay them that extra sum. So I had written a warrant article for the special town meeting asking for $7,200 to be taken from excess revenue from the state and/or the growth in the town, and apply that to my salary line so I can pay people for the work they do. And that's the long and short of it.
Okay. Questions from anyone up here?
So do you have an amount that you need?
$7,200.
Okay, yeah, and just to clarify, what's going to happen is when we were going through the warrant articles, Heather had said that there were going to be a number of items that were incorporated, and I believe this is probably one of them in
She felt
Article
that
1.
to do it the way I was doing it in a separate warrant article, it really belonged within Article 1.
Sure,
So I was just kind of giving you all a heads up that
that's what that
this
was
will
about.
be coming. And
Okay. Okay.
And so what are the extent of the services? Will that take you to the end of the year, or?
the school said to the end of May,
Okay.
which I guess would be the end of the school year, or close to.
Okay.
Anyway, yep. It takes us back from the time that we started, which was, I think, 3 or 4 weeks ago,
Okay.
to the end of the year.
Do you expect that to be ongoing, like also next school year?
I don't know. It really depends on if there's funding to fund the program, and my staff levels and things like that, and just how the program runs. We're just starting it up, and right now we've just been all consumed with making sure the kids have cards that they can use, and we've done a lot of extra programming with the CW Mars network, so the kids get an extra long 5-week loan period instead of 3, to make sure that when they're on the cycle with their class, they're sure to come back without having overdue fines,
Okay.
so their parents don't have to get mad at me.
That's important.
Yeah.
All right.
Any other questions? No?
No.
Okay.
I'm sorry. So what grades are these?
This is grade 5. The 5th grade, which now is at Turkey Hill, Elementary School.
Yeah, okay.
And it's, apparently they inserted into their curriculum, I guess they did some work on their curriculum over the summer, and part of their new curriculum includes library visits for the classrooms. And there's 6 classrooms with 23, 22, 23, 24 kids in each class. So roughly it's about 140 kids in total that would be coming. And we've cycled them out. So the whole span takes like 3 to 4 weeks to get the classes in one time, and they'll cycle through again.
Will a teacher be there with them?
Yeah, they bring it, one teacher and one classroom aide, typically, is what they're doing. And then I assign my staff in different places because they use the children's room as well as the teen room. So I have somebody in the teen room to cover questions about the teen room and the materials in there. And then I have 2 people usually in the children's room, and one person to do circulation and one person to answer questions and guide the kids and do reader's advisory and things like that. And then I'm on the front desk to handle the problem solving.
Okay.
So that's what I do.
All right.
Good.
Okay, so,
Thanks, Martha.
excuse me.
Jay?
Is this a school-sponsored thing?
This is
event?
a request from the school.
So is the school contributing any funding to this?
Not that I know of,
Have they been asked?
not by me.
Well, I think the school
Figure
should
that's
be
more
asked for
your
funding.
bailiwick. Yeah, I don't think I'd get too far, frankly, but I don't know.
When,
That's something, I don't know.
Okay, well, I don't want to go too deep into it because it's really not an agenda item.
It's just a public comment.
It's just a public comment, so
And
it's...
right now, it's just to make you aware of it. I mean, I can certainly put that question forward, and they
Right.
will know that I've been here, and
Oh, sure.
I'm going to ask for the $7,200, so.
when was did this get, like, planned or
No.
started?
This started about a month ago. Wasn't planned for.
So it wasn't a collaborative
Not
effort
with
between
us.
the library and the schools, so, yeah, okay. So,
Right.
so when we get to Article 1, as a full discussion, I think that would be an appropriate
And I'd be
time to
more
have
than
that discussion.
happy, to come back.
Sure.
So you can ask.
Yeah, because we have no idea what else might be in there.
Yeah,
So-
I didn't realize that.
No,
But I
that's
also
what,
didn't want to miss the train.
I understand,
Oh,
I
nice.
understand.
It would be my normal pace, so.
Okay,
Okay.
All right,
thank you, Martha.
Thanks, Martha.
All right, and actually I should ask, because one of the things that I wanted to do was to review the special town meeting warrant and voting procedures. And I wanted to start first, is there any more information available to us or cleaner versions of the warrant?
Everything is now online.
Okay.
And it will be mailed to everyone. They were delivered to the post office today.
So is the language in Article 1 still what we saw?
Yes.
Or, okay, so
There's no
that
changes.
additional information is
There's no
not
additional
available yet?
information for Article 1.
Okay. Is that something that we're not going to have until the town meeting?
Hope to have it for the 8th, the meeting on the 8th.
Okay, so I should, okay, it's meeting on the 8th. All right, and is that going to be specific to Article 1, or will there be other articles that we'll have information on?
That will also affect Article 2, as far as on the 8th. We do not expect to have a certified new growth figure for real estate before town meeting.
Okay.
Oh, we don't?
No,
Oh,
according to the schedule provided by the assessors of when they're submitting and how long they have to advertise, the values and such. But the regional assessor asserts that it's the same as the estimate. We
Okay.
used it, no less. So
okay, so we're going to use those numbers during the,
that's the number
At
where.
special town meeting?
Yeah, we have additional personal property
Okay.
new growth that we're using in our calculation for additional capacity.
okay. All right, I'll make sure I put those on the agenda, and if anything else comes up, just let me know.
This was a reval year too that I think added to the timeline.
Okay, that would, okay. Anything else we need to know about the special town meeting warrant?
New information on Article 3, an updated figure on that. That's for the DPW union collective bargaining agreement.
Okay.
It's less than what was originally stated because of retirements and attrition. The number changed to $8,049.80.
Okay,
8049?
8049.80. And that would be a transfer from the salary reserve
Ah, great.
account.
There's $2,600 toward the library.
And the Personnel Committee met and we discussed the Article 8, which is the salary survey. And we have the opportunity to get that done free of charge through
That was the discussion, sure.
kind of a pilot. Lunenburg as one of the pilot communities. And they voted to proceed with that as well. So we plan to table that article for Passover.
Okay,
sounds good.
great.
We'll save 2 minutes at the meeting, okay.
Yeah. But the language in articles that had amendments to bylaws and the noise control bylaw, which would be a new bylaw, that's all on the town website, was shared on Facebook, so that information is already up for you to
Okay.
see.
All right, and the public hearing for the marijuana thing,
Yep,
moratorium,
all the
that won't
public
be...
hearings, the planning board held their public hearings
Okay,
last Monday, so those are complete.
okay, nice.
Okay.
And I guess that's it for the special town meeting warrant. Now, when I indicated voting procedures, the reason why I indicated that was at the last town meeting, I know that there was some discomfort with the way that voting went, or the way that, but I can't remember what the issue was. I don't know if it was that we didn't have a chance to discuss it, or if people didn't feel like they had a chance to ask questions. I don't remember. I just remember afterwards it was that there was a lot of discomfort around the way that the voting had gone for, and I don't remember if it was the special town meeting or the regular town meeting.
Was that on the citizens petition to hire another EMT? To hire earlier than what the town manager was working with the department heads on? Is that Carlock?
That would have been during, I believe that was the regular town meeting. And that was, but I guess what I'm not remembering is whether it was because we didn't have ample time to talk about items that were coming up, or that the way that the vote went, it was hard to, or hard to state why you were voting the way you were voting, or anything like that. So I guess I just wanted to, if anybody did have any recollection of feeling uncomfortable with the way the last meeting went.
I think it was related to me not being allowed to vote on the town level, but on the committee level only.
Yeah, that might have been you, but I think there was something about the way that the feedback I got was that it would be nice to have a different way to handle going down the line with the recommendations.
Caucus.
We couldn't caucus, yeah. So,
Was that feedback from one of us, or?
I think it was feedback from the committee as a whole, felt like uncomfortable with that maybe there wasn't enough discussion about certain things, or we hadn't covered a lot of material before the meeting, so when the votes came up, maybe it was hard to...
I didn't feel uncomfortable. I do remember that, just as Jay said, it was difficult to quorum. We in the old setup, I seem to remember we had slightly more space. We'd sort of have a mini huddle and talk about it a little bit. This time was a little different. It didn't make me uncomfortable. Indeed, I kind of liked the fact that when there was a non-unanimous vote, we had to each state our own vote. What I think is useful to the town meeting, I'd like us to do more of, is to have some sort of a reason why, say, we're voting, particularly in a no vote, or recommend, not a vote, no vote, but when you recommend town meeting disapproval, I think we owe it to the town individually or collectively as for the following reasons. You know, that's the only, but not a level of discomfort, just say more transparency.
Okay, okay. So maybe we can talk about that November 8th
Yeah.
as well, and look at what potentially, although, and since we'll have the numbers, then maybe that will make it easier to do that, and state that when we say that we're recommending approval or not, then there's not a problem with stating why we're recommending approval or not, and
Yeah.
I can, if I don't do that, just hit me and you can do that.
Well, that would be a problem.
Okay.
I will try to get your attention.
But I also don't know, we're not allowed to caucus, really, are we?
I think that was statement was made by the town moderator at the beginning of the meeting. That's why it was done that way.
Ah,
That you had to announce your votes at the microphone.
I can't remember. I mean, there had been a time when we would caucus, and we would, but it was also because it is a public forum and it is a public meeting. I think basically we're not supposed to have like a private conversation at the front of the room. So it was,
yes, I can understand that.
yeah. But yeah, I think the transparency piece, I think that's part of it.
Okay.
Um,
In that case, then what we really need to do as a committee is to, going with the information we have prior to town meeting, make sure that we know, we've talked through each of the articles that we're waiting discussion at town meeting thoroughly.
Right. And we can do that, I think, on November 8th.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, so we'll just take time to go through them again and just make sure that we're clear on what it is that we're going to do with that.
Thank you, Terry. See, that didn't take any physical violence.
Thank you. Well, not yet. We're not at a special town meeting, so somebody might still have to kick me. Okay. Then what I wanted to do then tonight as well was just to review the status of member projects with the dashboard, with the website data, and so I think basically I'll start with you, Mark.
Yeah, so I had a quick discussion with Heather before. So there is discussion, or I think it's close to a contract between Lunenburg and ClearGov, or?
Oh, it is ClearGov.
And
Oh, okay.
that's why I slowed down, because it doesn't make sense to do the same work pretty much twice. So I think we will get more data there in a common format, and it can be automatically created, which helps a lot.
Well, yeah. All right, so. Yeah, all right, so then basically, is there a timeline for that, or?
I think they could be up and running within 4 to 6 weeks.
So in 4 to 6 weeks, our data will be on ClearGov as the town,
You'd sign on.
once you sign on, after you sign on. All right, so, but basically, that's what you anticipate is going to happen. Okay, and then basically, that's not related to the Lunenburg website, that's a ClearGov website. So, yeah. Okay,
Link it on our website.
yeah, and I'm trying to think if it was ClearGov currently has the Lunenburg Public Schools data. Was that the one? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So,
So makes sense.
yeah, okay. So then we'll see how that all plays out. Because the other, well, actually, I'm jumping way ahead, so I'll come back down to it and go to George. Oh, or actually, Mark, so are you then, at this point, are you just going to wait and see what happens with that?
I think I'm waiting to see what happens. I have a 1-year version which is working, but now I think before I'm going through the efforts and really hand edit all the other data, I just wait.
Okay. Then we'll go to George in the dashboard.
Yeah, I turned in some of my charts about 3 or 4 weeks ago, or a month ago,
Right?
some of the, based on some of the data models that
Yep.
I got from Karen and Heather. What I would like to do before, maybe discuss these at the next meeting, but I'd like to sit down with like Heather and Karen and go over what I'm trying to represent in these charts, and to maybe be able to talk at a kind of a holistic level as to, like, for instance, some of the debt limits, as to why they spiked and why some of them were going down, and just to basically be in a better position to explain the trends that I'm seeing here. I guess just looking at these charts in general, it's like we're on the downward slope as far as, just a general look at this, the different levels of debt we have isn't running away. As some of the concerns that we heard on the town meeting last year, where there was a lot of talks about how debt is good and debt is bad, and so I remember thinking back then, it's like, well, where is this discussion going? And I had no idea where we were really positioned. And so from my general perspective, when I look at this data, it's like, well, we're sort of sliding downwards, and there are certain assets in town that have been financed, that, like some of the school buildings and things, that kind of cause some of these spikes. But I'd feel a little bit more comfortable just reviewing these with the town manager and the finance, just to make sure I have it right.
Okay.
And, my initial exercise on this was to get better at knowing what this data is and stuff. And that's my goal, is to be able to present this in kind of like a couple of clear charts, and just make it easy for everybody to maybe better learn what we either know now or learn from it.
Okay. And then I'm going to assume that, like, I'm trying to remember, you weren't here for that meeting. I think Karen was, when George, we had or were you here with the debt information? Because it was all itemized. And I guess what I'm not sure of is whether ClearGov drills down as deeply as George is going with some of the data. So that would be something I'd be interested to see, is whether it's,
Yeah, I'm not even sure if my charts are current.
yeah, it was it this, I see so many charts, Terry, on a regular basis that they all look the same. There's always blue. Okay, yeah. But basically it was, I don't think ClearGov will drill down as far as in terms of the specific items, but, so I think that the dashboard would still be helpful especially for group work around the budget. So, that would be good if possible. Then, and I'm sorry, I have to go back because, under the review of special town meeting warrant, one of the other things that happened was regarding the article related to Hollis Hills, the piece of property. Did you get an email from the citizen that brought that forward about visiting the site if you were interested in it to see? Okay.
Yep.
I just wanted to, I wasn't sure if that had happened. I'm sorry?
That was Hickory Hills.
Hickory Hills. I don't know why I said Hollis. Yeah, that little, yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure that you had that information. I couldn't tell from the email
Yep.
whether it had gone to everybody. All right, then, I think those were the only outstanding projects that we had going on right now. But it also then opened up for me, I thought, several weeks ago when Hannah and Michelle in particular talked about wanting to find a way to get definitions up that we used to have when John had initially done the fiscal policies and had it all linked back to definitions, but that changed when it all went on this Board of Selectmen site. I thought it was a good idea. I thought that it might be worth taking a look at what was in the municipal definition
If I may.
booklet.
The municipal finance glossary
Yes.
online?
Yes. And then basically it is 20 pages long, so there's probably a lot of definitions in there we don't particularly need. But I was thinking that, I don't know the best way to proceed with this, but going through those definitions to get a sense of which ones we might think are frequent flyers.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking was, of the 20 pages, there may be 2 pages that are definition, of total, that are definitions, that are terms that we use regularly. You know, free cash, stabilization fund, that sort of stuff. And what I can do is I can call up the municipal finance glossary and highlight that sort of stuff, if you'd like. Or even just take, do what I did a few years ago and take some of the key terms down straight with links to the municipal finance glossary, and then circulate them amongst the group and have people add terms they'd like to see.
Yeah, we could do that. I mean, I had sent the link to the municipal glossary, so if people want to go through and just start to identify what they think, what sticks out for you. But the other question I have is, will the website tolerate a searchable PDF?
I'm not sure. Nobody had any else.
Okay. I think it probably just links to it, but I think if, yeah, because if we put a municipal, like if we put together a glossary of terms that we think are, that's not so frightening,
Yeah,
that we could just have a link to a, and then we can also alter the definition if we think that it's not user-friendly enough.
yeah.
But if we put that into a PDF document that I think, if it's searchable, I think if it's just a link from the page to that, then there might be a way to do it. I don't know.
Let's give it a try.
Okay. So I did print the 20 pages. I don't know if anybody else did, so we won't go through it tonight. Unless anybody already looked at it and said, this looks important. But it looks like it was just recently updated, so there shouldn't be any surprises in there. Any suggestions or questions around that? Anybody have any definitions that they're not sure of right this very minute?
There's a lot to it. But it hit all the things that I was looking for when I
Oh,
was
that's
doing
good.
my research, so.
That's good.
It's a
Okay.
very handy document.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
It is.
definitely.
Got me a outstanding document.
Find that.
It's in a link that Terry sent out in an email.
Yeah, I think with the meeting agenda, I had included the link.
Yeah, on 10/22, the first email at 10/22.
Okay, then we'll just leave that on for something to continue to discuss until we get to budget time. And also to ClearGov, if that does start to go up, it might be interesting to see what that entails as well, and see if we pick up anything that we probably want to make sure people understand the meaning of, so. All right, and then with that, we're just flying through, so we'll just go, I'm going to take out of order and go to the town manager or financial officer report. Yeah, I know there's an announcement, but, yeah. That went to all of us, is that right? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't send it out. Okay, yes. I will forward that email to everybody. I didn't realize it didn't go to everybody.
Just an update on free cash. Free cash was certified October 17th, and I had estimated $1,531,000. The actual certification came in at $1,512,483.
Wow.
The retained earnings for all of the enterprise funds were also certified at the same time, and we had $52,709 in retained earnings in the Water Enterprise Fund, $1,929,110 in the Sewer Enterprise Fund, and $1,086 in the Trash Enterprise Fund. I can forward these so that you have a record of them,
Thanks.
if you did not
I
have them.
I have it. I just didn't realize that I need to send it to everybody else, so
Okay.
I will do that.
But that's what they were. They're certified and available for use.
Karen?
Yes.
What's a trash enterprise fund? What's that?
That
represent?
is the fund that, when people buy the bags, that's where all the revenue goes for that, and the associated costs are paid out of that fund.
Okay.
So that's running even, which is what we would want to see.
Yeah.
John?
Hey, I need to just clarify something for myself. I had written down something early in the meeting about not having certified new growth before town meeting. Oh, no, wait a minute, that's something else, free cash, excuse me. Oops, yep.
Okay, so that, I always love self-resolving issues. Okay, so yes, so that was that, this is the free cash number, the 1.5 million, and the certification of new growth will wait for
Yep.
after town meeting. And actually, I also just want to go back to, at the last meeting we had, one of the things that was discussed was that you had had a discussion with your finance people about whether or not it made sense to pay anything down. You were having that discussion.
The financial advisor.
Yes.
Did ask that in the next
You still haven't heard anything back yet?
Well, when he did come, what he said was it would be at least a couple of years before we had any bonds that we were able to pay down.
Okay.
So I don't think it's anything that we would be able to do at this current time.
Okay.
Maybe in a few years, but he was also going to check to see whether or not that made sense for us.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you for checking that out. All right, then we will go to committee department updates. Do we have any?
Are you gliding over the investment policy statement?
Oh, I am, I'm gliding right over that, see?
No, I thought I missed that as well.
Well, actually, no, you know what it was? I didn't print that version of the agenda.
Oh,
So, I'm glad you did. So actually, see, Heather thought she was all done. And Heather was the one that made me put the agenda item in. So I assume that we're, what was the agenda item?
that was the review of amended
Investment policy?
statement. Vote may be taken.
So are we reviewing the investment policy statement, and is a vote going to be necessary? I'm sorry, I printed the wrong version of the,
Well, no, I mean, if a vote is necessary, I think that's probably up to the committee, right? Yeah. But, I mean, the only thing that I wanted to point out in the investment policy is, I mean, I know that there was a question on the diversification of the funds, because the investment policy that we have in place right now said that no more than 10% of the town's investments would be in a single financial institution. And the revised policy says 25%. But one of the things that I wanted to point out is in the investment policy itself, it states unless the institution's investment is fully insured or collateralized. So I went through the cash book for the close of this fiscal year, and most of the financial, we have, 13 financial institutions that we utilize. Of the 13, the majority of them are less than 2%. We use Fidelity Bank, and at the close of the fiscal year, 10.53% of our funds were invested with them, which that is, Fidelity we use for the daily deposits. All of the checks that come into the town go to Fidelity Bank. So that was at 10.53%. Main Street Bank, which is the bank right over here, has all of our enterprise funds and also our cash from our daily deposits are brought over there. And at the close of 18, they had 16% of our total funds. Unibank, which is our state depository, where all of our state funds go, at the close of the fiscal year had 22% of our funds. Harbor One, which was the bank that we utilized when we were, and we're still going through the school construction, had 9% of our investment. And let's see, the next one was Belmont, which was also part of the school building project funds. They had 12% of our investment. And the last one, which is Bartholomew, who holds our trust funds, had 19%. All of these financial institutions, our funds were fully insured, even though they were over that 10% threshold, according to the old investment policy. So, in my opinion, I think that the 25% is fine, but of course, if the committee or the Board of Selectmen had an issue with that percentage, then we could certainly leave it at the 10. But our funds are safe. We did have one, like I said, we had a few banks that were, well, the biggest one was our state depository was at 22% at the close of the fiscal year. So that was certainly higher than the 10% threshold. But again, like I said, if anybody took issue with the 10% going to 25%, I don't have an issue with it being at 10% because the policy states that as long as the funds are fully insured, then it can exceed that 10%.
Yeah.
Or the 25% or whatever that threshold is.
Right, and I know Main Street Bank would be fully insured. Is the state depository one, is that one?
Oh, the Unibank is definitely, yes.
Is
And
fully
I
insured,
think
okay.
I was talking with Mylene right before I came up here, and based upon the conversation that I had with her, all of these funds that were in place, all of these accounts, at the end of June, any of the funds that were in there, even if they exceeded the 10% in the existing investment policy, were fully insured. So we
Okay.
were covered 100%.
Now, by insured, Karen, you're speaking of FDIC insurance.
Correct. And there's other insurance as well that they carry, like the smaller banks. I can't remember the name of it.
I'm not sure if it's the smaller banks, but it's if you're a savings bank, there's a savings
opposed
bank
to-
insurance versus,
Yeah.
yeah, a regular bank. So, and Main Street, I believe, is still a savings bank.
They are. So again, I think that was the only issue that was discussed at the meeting that I was at when we were discussing this policy, and I don't take issue with it being one way or the other, because our funds are fully insured, no matter what the scenario is in the policy.
And then if you could refresh my memory, in the investment policy, did it refer to the funds being deposited in interest-bearing accounts?
I don't.
Was there any discussion around interest-bearing accounts?
Well, I think, I
I
don't
mean-
know that it specifically states that, but in the investment, I mean, you would want to have it in an interest-bearing account because,
Right, so I'm assuming, so is it safe to assume that, so the accounts that the town uses at Main Street Bank, are they the ones that are interest-bearing or the business accounts? I guess that's the question.
Well,
'Cause some of them are.
all of those accounts are
Are
interest-bearing accounts.
accounts.
Correct.
All right, but you don't feel it's necessary to indicate in the investment policy that all of them should be interest-bearing accounts?
Well, I mean, we could, but
I'm only asking because
We
it's the
would-
investment policy, so I'm
we
just,
could,
you
but
know.
I wouldn't, I mean, we wouldn't invest the funds if we weren't earning interest, so I think we could certainly do that.
I'm just, yeah, just, but, I mean, I don't know if anybody
that it
else.
specifically states in the policy. I'll have to take a closer look, but
Mark?
I guess I
Always-
just
always
assumed
don't
that
state the obvious.
Yeah, don't
Yeah,
state the obvious, yeah. No.
that was my thought, but.
I mean, no, if people are fine without it, I mean, you know, to me, it was just, I don't know, was that in there? I don't know, so,
Get this in there, so that's the first section, so that's the last objective.
I'm sorry?
The yield.
The last objective
Yeah.
and yield objective. right
Yeah,
here.
it says safety, liquidity, and yield. And yield, it says yield is the third and last objective. Investments shall be made so as to achieve the best rate of return.
Yeah,
Okay, then,
Self-explanatory.
but they're also, and I agree with this totally, yield takes, safety and liquidity takes precedent over
Over
yield.
yield.
Yeah,
sure,
so,
okay.
no.
Karen, can I ask you a question? I'm trying to process a statement you made earlier. On the bonds where you mentioned you really can't do anything with them for a couple more years.
No, I'm talking about the money, because it was kind of twofold, because we were issuing bonds for the project, but we were also receiving state reimbursement. So the monies that we were receiving from the state as reimbursement for the project were going into those bank accounts.
Okay.
And then we were holding, you know, and there is money still in there, because we're at a point now where we're waiting for the final payment from MSBA. We've issued a ban, but we've actually issued a ban for more than what the final costs of the project were. So there's a little bit of money that's sitting in those accounts right now until everything is finalized and we figure out exactly what we need to issue for the final bond.
Okay, thank you.
If I may,
John?
just, this is, I'll begin with the significant one here, which is my, two things. First of all, on page 2, point F, ethics. I had a question about the term material. In the sentence said individuals should disclose, but midway through the paragraph. And I wondered if there was any definition or guidance about what constitutes materiality regarding managers of these accounts. I had 3 or 4.
That's fine.
If I get to...
No,
I'm sure that we can get something for you that defines that.
I was more interested in, not in me per se, but perhaps something explicitly in the policy statement that is guidance to help people determine when they have a material, they run the risk of having a material conflict.
What is considered a material
Yes,
financial
yes,
interest?
Yes.
Okay, we can definitely get clarification on that and write it into the policy so that
Yeah.
it's stated.
Okay, and don't run off, because, don't run off.
Yeah, I have, and the next, there's an endpoint to this. Page 3, section G, relationship with financial institutions. I know the term should is a softer term than shall in the first paragraph, and I wondered if that was there intentionally to make it, to broaden the net, the number of financial institutions we can subscribe with, or if it's something that should be strengthened with the word shall. Now, if we go down further, the next two, the next paragraph, or starting with the treasurer shall require, indicates to me that that's talking to the licensed reputable dealer is just one step. The licensed reputable dealer then has to prove their bona fides. So maybe should works here. But I just wanted to.
Well, and one thing I will point out is that the town just subscribed to the Veribank Rating Services, so we are a member of that service. So
Okay.
I wouldn't even, I wouldn't take issue with that word being shall as opposed to should
Great.
too, because I think it's important that we do.
Well, I'm glad, because I didn't want to push the point too far if in fact it gave you some necessary
No, it
flexibility.
definitely doesn't,
Great.
definitely
Great.
doesn't.
Okay. And then there were just a couple more, what I consider to be typos, which are really small bore stuff. If you go back to page 1, under scope, if you look at the second line, section 2 will deal with trust funds. And yet if I go over to where section 2 starts, the scope says this policy applies to funds. So the word will deal with sort of is, I think, could be improved. That just wordsmithing. It's not really doesn't really reach to the policy or anything. But I would suggest section 2 deals with, take out the will, or covers, or applies to trust funds, bond proceeds, and other funds.
Okay. Heather, do you have, are you putting
Yes.
notes?
Yes.
Because I don't have anything in my hand to.
And then there's only, I think, 2 or 3 more. One is the page 1, the investment instruments. This, the word town, line 3, should be capitalized to be consistent.
Okay.
When that refers to this particular town. And and then that's the only other thing, everybody's happy to hear that, is on page 3, section H. First paragraph, line 2, right-hand side, minimum.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
That's why we call it a draft.
That's I figured it was open season, so.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot for your patience and forbearance.
No problem.
Do we have any other questions or comments on the policy? None? Okay. Then
We'll clean it up and
We'll-
bring it back.
and we'll plan to take action on the 8th.
By the way, I'm very impressed with it. It's a good document.
Did the Board of Selectmen already vote on it? Okay. Okay, so bring back, okay. Then sliding back over, then we'll go to committee department updates. Does anyone have one?
I guess,
Go ahead.
just
Go ahead, I can.
the capital planning committee, has met a couple of times, and town manager has distributed the capital planning document on the Google Sheets to the individual departments, and we're getting ready to find out what their adjusted plans are for the next 5 years.
When the departments present, that's not televised, right?
I don't know if it is or not.
Okay. No? And there's no, yeah,
Oh, no, not capital planning, no.
Okay. I was just curious if there was a record. George?
Okay, so this information's a little bit dated. I had it for the last meeting, but we didn't get to it. So Chief Sullivan wanted me to mention that Engine 4 had issues, unanticipated issues that showed up during the annual testing of the pump. And he is expecting the repair costs around $5,000 to $7,000 if they can locate the parts. It's a 1995 engine. And also, this dating on this is a little old, but the ladder truck has been ordered back about a month ago with a 300-day delivery time frame.
Wow.
That's basically all I have.
Okay, 300 days, wow.
So it's probably around 230 at this point, 250. This is about a month old.
Okay. Anyone else?
I did attend the Library Board of Trustees meeting last week. One takeaway from that is they talked about all these old funds that they have, all these old trust funds, and not being clear as to how they can get access to them. I guess they know the amounts that are in them, but they don't know how to get access to the funds. Is there a request process or, so just that general question. Because they had discussed something they specifically want to access the funds for.
I guess they call Karen, I guess, you know.
I think the reason why they weren't sure how to access the funds is because they don't access the funds very often. I actually just had a conversation with Martha today because they had a bill that they want to split between funds that they had encumbered from the prior year and the trust funds.
Okay.
So I sent her a report that showed which they had that anyway, but I sent her a report that showed what they had in trust funds, how much interest they had available to them, and just told her that once she identifies which trust fund she wants to use, then I can walk her through the process for how to get to those funds.
Great.
Nice. Okay. Well, the Charter Review Committee met last night. We heard from two potentially new items to be addressed, although one's not going to be addressed. One was rank order voting, which is a mystery to, well, it's not as much of a mystery now that they've done the presentation, but I think we'll probably put some information out there, but I don't believe that the Charter Review Committee is ready to put that in the charter. It's basically, it's just a system for if there's two positions and there's 4 people running, and you want to make sure that somebody gets elected who has 50% of the vote, that when the top vote getters, if one of them doesn't clear 50%, then they take the bottom one off, and everybody has had a chance to have a second choice. So all of the second choices for the candidate who is now off the list get redistributed until somebody gets to 50%. So it's probably one of those things that would have been good in the election that just had the representative competition with 16 people, I think, running in District 3, where somebody won with 19% of the vote or something like that. So, so there's probably places where that can go. The other was that there be, if someone becomes a write-in candidate or is written in, that they not be able to be elected unless they hit the number of votes required to have been put on the ballot in the first place. So if somebody can't get elected to the sewer commission with 4 votes anymore, or whatever that was. I was like, I remember Joe saying it was some, like, silly number, but because he was a write-in. So that will probably become part of the charter as well, or be presented to the town to be voted on. And I think that there will be a report at the special town meeting, but it'll just be, these are the things we're talking about. And I believe that they're hoping to have public hearings in December. And I didn't bring the rest of my minutes from that, but I know the first public hearing, I believe that they're going to shoot for December. And the only other thing I have is, just because I went, I know that the ham and bean supper that they had for the Eagle House, for the benefit of the Eagle House supporters had for the benefit of the Eagle House, raised, I believe, $997 clear. So that was nice, and it was actually kind of fun, and it was a very pleasant experience, and I didn't win anything in the raffles, but it's okay. It all went to a good cause. And that's all I have. Do we have minutes this week? I don't believe we took action on anything last week, so I guess we'll just wait until November 8th. The other question I do have, Heather, that Hannah had asked, and I didn't find out, is she responsible for the 6:30 minutes last week, or last meeting, when we had the BOS meeting and then the public hearing?
Yeah,
She did both? Okay, I'll let Hannah know. Thank you. Then, unless we have a public comment from the public comment from anybody on the committee?
No, ma'am.
Then nothing else, no burning issues, then I'll be, so the next meeting is, all right, I have written down November 9th, but we also talked about November 8th. What date is the next meeting? It is Tuesday the 8th, Thursday the 8th? I don't know why I thought. Okay, thank you. All right, so the next meeting is November 8th, ignore what the agenda says. And the November 13th special town meeting will be coming up shortly thereafter. So for the 8th, we will be discussing the articles, we'll be discussing the investment policy. And we will go over each of the warrant articles to determine why we're taking our stance. And with that, if there's nothing else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Jay seconds, okay, thank you very much. Oh, actually, I guess all in favor? Is anybody? Anybody not in favor? All right, thank you very much.